Episode 7 opens with Ellie managing to get Joel to shelter in an abandoned suburban home. She's doing everything she can to stop Joel from bleeding to death, and despite her efforts, Joel urges her to leave and return to Jackson, where Tommy can take care of her. Reluctantly, Ellie leaves but pauses at the door. We flash back to a time before the start of the show, where we get a glimpse of Ellie's life before she was infected. We get your typical high school scenario where the bully picks on the main character because the main character's best friend is gone, resulting in a fight. Ellie is given a lecture by a federal captain of one of the soldiers in charge of the quarantine zone. Despite the bully starting the fight, Ellie put her bully in the infirmary with 15 stitches. Ellie was always a troublemaker, but her habits have escalated since the disappearance of her friend. The captain decides punishing Ellie isn't enough anymore, so he decides to be blunt with her. Ellie is given an ultimatum.
Deal or no deal?
On one path, she can continue to act like a grunt and would be just another soldier running crappy jobs for crappy food while working under a crappy patrol officer until she meets an unfavorable end. On the other path, Ellie can follow the rules and eventually become an officer where she won't have to work crappy jobs and will be given privileges, such as good food and having her own room. Ellie asks the officer why does he care, and he answers he believes Fedra are the only ones keeping the peace within the quarantine zones, and without them, the people would tear each other apart. Ellie agrees with the officer and states she'll follow the path of an officer. Later that night, Ellie is still upset by the absence of her friend, who also happens to be her roommate, Riley. Riley returns after disappearing for 3 weeks. After some bantering, Riley reveals she joined the Fireflies, and she'll explain everything on the condition Ellie go with her for a couple hours. For the next few minutes, we get to see how close of a friendship Ellie and Riley had. Riley was recruited by the Fireflies because their leader, Marlene, liked how she was good at sneaking around. Ellie states she doesn't think Fedra isn't that bad because despite being fascists, they are trying to keep the peace. Despite their disagreements, the two of them don't argue, but rather agree to disagree, showing how strong of a bond these two characters have. Riley reveals a surprise to Ellie. She's taking her to a mall that Fedra deemed unsafe, but shows not only is it free from infected, but also still has electricity.
Hot diggity dog! This place is magnificent.
I gotta admit, I found enjoyment in Ellie finding joy in something as simple as an escalator. Come on, we've all been there, walking up the down escalator. As they explore the mall, Riley tells Ellie how people looted the mall before Fedra showed up, but then Ellie notices that a shoe store is completely empty, but the store containing toiletries nearby isn't, showing how people decided it was more important to loot material and luxury goods rather than looting essential items. I mean, America is a very consumer-heavy society, so it makes sense. It's also funny because all those people who stole those luxury products were probably foaming at the mouth when they realized they couldn't resell those products and wasted all that time stealing. Riley gives Ellie a tour of the mall, stopping at a carousel and an arcade. Inside the arcade, the two of them play Mortal Kombat 2! However, the noise they make attracts an infected who managed to enter the mall. Later, Riley gives Ellie her Bad Puns book, the one that she's been carrying with her on her journey with Joel. While the two exchange bad jokes, Ellie finds makeshift pipe bombs and figures out Riley didn't find the mall but was instead posted there to guard supplies. Distraught, Ellie tries to leave but is stopped by Riley when the latter states she's being taken to the Atlanta quarantine zone and this is her last night in Boston. The reason Riley returned to Ellie was because Marlene wouldn't let Ellie go with Riley, so Riley wanted to say goodbye to Ellie. Despite this confession, Ellie leaves again, but then changes her mind at the last second and returns. Hearing a woman screaming, she finds a Halloween store and finds out the screaming is from a prop. Riley reveals this was Ellie's last gift. The two recounsel and start dancing. Ellie kisses Riley and the two hint that they like each other more than best friends. Suddenly, the infected finds them. They both manage to fend off and kill the infected, but are both also bitten. Remember, Ellie doesn't know she's immune at this time, so they are both equally distraught. Back in the present, Ellie doesn't leave Joel. She runs around the house, desperately looking for something to save Joel. We flash back again to Ellie angrily destroying the store. Ellie and Riley discuss their options, and they both decide to use the time they have left to be with each other. Back in the present, Ellie finds a needle and thread and uses it to seal Joel's wound, potentially saving him. In the previous episode, Ellie expresses how much Joel means to her. This episode shows why. Ellie doesn't have anyone left. Her parents are gone, she has no family, and she lost her best friend / potential girlfriend not too long before she met Joel. Ellie isn't ready to abandon Joel and is willing to do anything to save him. While this episode may feel like a deviation, it turns out this episode was adapted from The Last of Us downloadable content called Left Behind, and I gotta say, they did a pretty good job. Bella Ramsey portrays a different side of Ellie, perhaps the true personality of Ellie, and it's refreshing to see the character in a new light. Ellie's relationship with Riley is both a delight to see, but also heartbreaking because it doesn't last. The previous episode had a lot of red flags, but this episode gave the show some positive points, and with only 3 episodes left this season, I hope the show can finish strong. Please comment below, as I'd like to hear your own thoughts about episode 7. Don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Deviant, and thanks for watching.